Hello everybody, it's Chris Thomas again. This is another in my series of videos discussing safe locations state by state for the continental USA. Tonight we're going to cover Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois, and Missouri. Now I want to briefly mention that we're getting closer to the New Madrid area here. In fact, we're in the area with Illinois. So those people who live in these states near Illinois like that are going to be in the shock zone. Now, here is a good example of this. Was from 1811 New Madrid earthquake, and this gives you an idea of the kind of shock wave that's going to reach, well, all the way around the world. Well, I believe, and it's predicted, that the New Madrid would be at least as worse, much worse actually, than what happened in 1811, because we know from Zeta Talk that the eastern seaboard is going to, the Mississippi is going to split and separate and open up. So it's a very, very serious event, and it's going to break all the bridges on the Mississippi. So it's going to isolate the eastern seaboard of the U.S. from continental U.S. And so it's going to cause a lot of problems for people who want food, electricity, clean water, and gas supplied. Never mind disaster resistance. There's going to be such a wide area. So I'm just saying, be prepared. That's all I'm saying. And I believe it's going to occur about 2022. So that's enough on that for now. So we're going to head into Minnesota. Okay, let's look at Minnesota. Minnesota is framed by, I believe that's the Red River on the western border, and it has rivers on its eastern border. So you've got rivers on both sides of the state, and you've got rivers crossing through the plains to the south. So that means during the hour of the pole shift, these plain areas here are going to flood very much. But the terrific thing about Minnesota is that it has wonderful rock underneath it. The pink, it represents almost 4 billion year old rock, and the purple and the brown I believe, the purple is the youngest at about 2 billion years old. So this, the northern 4/5 or 2/3 of the state is on the Canadian Shield, which extends way up around Hudson's Bay and to the east as well. So it's a massive craton that is absolutely stable. So that means that, well, even the rock in southern Wisconsin is still reasonably old. So it's still quite stable in the southern portion. But the craton comes around like this, and it's obviously part of northern Michigan, and no, I should say northwestern Michigan and northern Wisconsin. So uh, during the hour of the pole shift, it's you would not see any rock coming through the soil at all. It'd just be vibrating. Um, Very, very stable, very strong. So, highly recommended for pole shift survival um, in Minnesota as far as the northeastern quadrant of the state. And again, the plains to the south are subject to flooding, and to the west. So now, the other wonderful thing about Minnesota is that it's directly attached to the Great Lakes. And the Great Lakes, of course, as I've said, they are embedded, at least Superior and the upper ones here are the northern lakes are embedded in the Canadian Shield. And you can see the shield here. There. And you can see extend down like that. So they're embedded in that. So they're not going to go anywhere. But there's likely to be there's going to be sloshing, and it's recommended that you be 50 feet in height, and probably back from the lake. I certainly wouldn't be on the lake shore during the pole shift. That's what I'm saying. So you want to be 50 feet back and probably a couple hundred up and a couple hundred feet back. Anyways, you'll have to use your common sense for that. I think there will be some flooding in this area here to the south of Duluth. So this could be a problematic area during the hour of the pole shift. So you have a terrific state physically, and is positioned, as I said, wonderfully on the Great Lakes, so that'll offer travel and trade opportunities, which is a very, very excellent situation for anyone in eastern Minnesota. And now. Minneapolis hosts about 3 million people, and of course there are lots of people over in Milwaukee, Chicago, and all these Green Bay and all this. I think I calculated about at least 1 million or 2 over here. So there's going to be a lot of migrants moving around. So that's probably the only drawback with the state will be the migrants. There are some, I believe there's 2 or 3 nuclear stations in and around Minneapolis, but I think the stable rock underneath the nuclear power stations will prevent them from really breaking up. So, but if any radiation was to leak, any material, it's obviously going to go down into these rivers here. So, but I think is possible. But anyways, being in these plains, they're going to flood anyway, so it's not really a great place to be. Now, of course, that's into Wisconsin, so we'll be doing that next. So we have a fabulous state for pole shift time and for after time. Highly recommended. Just stay away from the populated areas, obviously, so that you won't have to deal with the migrants as much. And of course, you are pretty close anyway, so there will be migrants. So the object would be to definitely hide your food, and definitely be using propane for cooking in the aftertime, so you don't leave a smoke trail in the sky. And the other thing about Minnesota is, because of all its flooding and all the lakes to the northeast, having boats like a canoe and a rowboat, and if you could get yourself a sailboat, I think that would be a fabulous asset to have, so that you could travel and on the lakes. So that would be the thing to have. Migrants, flooding, wonderful rock very stable. And by the way, in the aftertime, there will be lots of fresh water coming in from the flooded Canadian North. You can see how flooded it's going to be. So the Arctic is going to expand close to the Great Lakes. So that's going to look like when the pole shift happens, like this. And so you've got seawater very close to the lakes. So there's lots of fresh water coming in from the westerlies, moving this direction into Minnesota, and of course Wisconsin and the others, but we'll get to the other states in a bit. And also North Dakota. I may have been a little tough on North Dakota as far as fresh water, but there will be water coming in via rain from the west in the aftertime. So that is Minnesota, an excellent state for the pole shift and aftertime. Okay, let's take a look at Wisconsin. Rivers mostly on its western border, the Mississippi and the St. Croix. We've got Lake Michigan on its eastern border, and we've got Lake Superior on its northern border. Now let's deal with the rock and geology right away. Here you can see I've got a better image for that. Yeah, here we are. This is the Canadian, known as the Canadian Shield. It's a craton. It's one big chunk of 3.6 billion year old rock, practically formed from Earth's early formation. And then we've got only slightly younger rock in this area here, the blue and the purple. Certainly the purple would be the oldest of the blues. So you've got the Great Lakes that are embedded in this ancient billions of years old rock. So the shape of the lakes are not likely to change. Now, ironically, during the pole shift, Zeta Talk tells us that the Gulf of St. Lawrence will open up. So obviously there's a weak point down and this dividing line down here. You can see between the two edges of rock. So it's going to split open. But the lakes are still going to remain intact. So that's obviously very good news for Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the other states in here, and of course for Canada, of course, because it's all on the oldest rock in this area here. So whatever we say about Wisconsin as far as ground is concerned, movement, and that's of course is the first one of the first considerations when during the pole shift or any earthquake is the ground moving is very upsetting. So there's not going to be any cracks opening up or rock popping up through the soil. It's completely stable. It's of course the same as I said with Minnesota, and then in the upper portion of Minnesota. So Wisconsin is extremely stable. There are rivers, and they will flood, but I think that's probably pretty obvious to most people to stay away from the rivers during for your survival area. Now, besides Wisconsin being so stable of rock, the ground being so stable, it has another terrific feature. And if you look at the now, okay, just as a quick word, this little border between Michigan, northwestern Michigan, and Wisconsin, I don't think is going to matter. Nobody's going to stand on that border pushing you out. So, effectively, Wisconsin is going to be in this area here as far as the near after time is concerned. So, we're going to ignore this dividing line. So, Wisconsin is essentially an amazing place for trade and travel in the after time because of its access to the Great Lakes. Now, there's another cool thing about Wisconsin. As I'm calling the pole melt coming up the Mississippi, the new Mississippi Gulf, and so it's going all the way to Iowa. So you can see that there's it's going to happen. So you're going to have a sea in this area. So that means that's going to be about, in my opinion, about 2025. Pole shift 2023. So we've got Wisconsin with practically sea frontage along the Mississippi here. So this river here, Mississippi. So you've got the sea to the south, you've got the lakes to the north, and you've got lakes to the to the north and lakes to the east. So for trade, it's going to be amazing for Wisconsin. So the state is just amazing. So it will be terrific. Now also, I noticed as Zeta Talk talks about how the Wisconsin government discourages through various laws development in the state as far as industry, which apparently is going to drive away interest to moving there. But keep that in mind because they're saying that it'll be the population will be quite low. So anyone who's considering to move, you're in a difficult area, in these, wherever you are, Wisconsin will be a fabulous state to move to. There is one nuclear station on Lake Michigan here in Wisconsin, but I'm hoping that it will survive because the rock is quite good, and the waves. Well, we'll see. I certainly won't see, but the people in the area will see. So you may want to keep an eye, stay away from the nuclear. Well, you will. I'm suggesting you do stay away from the nuclear station in Wisconsin on Lake Michigan. Lowly populated, highly diverse, has lots of forests in the northern area. Just an amazing state to be in the after time. So it's just terrific. That's Wisconsin, USA. Okay, we're going to look at Iowa. Iowa is framed with rivers on the west and east, and the state is fairly plain-like. That is to say, flat. I know Iowans may disagree with me, but I realize there are some hills in these areas here, but in my estimation, they is nowhere near hilly enough to make a stand for the pole shift. Nowhere near hilly enough. These aren't hills; they're just slight raises in the topology. So Iowa is quite flat. Now, if there weren't so many rivers in Iowa, well, then it may not be as much of a problem. But because Iowa is just ribbed with rivers everywhere, it's just going to be a wash during the pole shift. Now, the rock to the east, underneath the state, is good rock. It's good rock. So the reason why I bring that up, is because when I say that the state is not a good place to be for the pole shift, because of the extreme amount of water that's going to be flowing, and it has about 8 dams, I believe. They're all going to break, so it's just the water is going to be everywhere, and the Mississippi is going to back up, and so is the Missouri. It's just going to be one big wet state with water flowing everywhere. But the reason I bring up the rock point is because in the aftertime there will be many aftershocks that will be hitting the world, all over the world, and for years and years. In the Zeta Talk says for 100 years there will be aftershocks. So that's the good thing about Iowa, is it has good rock underneath it, so there won't be huge cracks opening up in the land, or huge rifts or bluffs appearing from the soil. So that's not going to be happening. So I'm suggesting that because Iowa is going to be completely covered with water during the pole shift, and for weeks afterwards, that Iowans find another place to live and then migrate backwards, back to Iowa in the aftertime, about 2025. Pole shift's going to be about 2023, and so then you migrate back if you want back to Iowa. Now you may want to, because let's take a look at what happening to Iowa in. Now this is the dark blue of the very likely 675 feet of sea level that will be lost due to fresh water melting from the poles. Let's remember that what's happening to the Earth is this in an hour. So that puts the poles on the equator. They melt. Then they flood the world. Different parts of the world gain in elevation. Where I'm at in Vancouver Island, I gain 7,500 feet in height. Mind you, just so you're crying about Iowa, I don't have very. Speaking of Vancouver Island, I haven't done it yet, but Vancouver Island is full of mountains, and I'm always up in here hiking, and there's mountains everywhere. But this is what's going to happen: all that good soil is all gone from the pole melt, and leaves mountainsides. And the island is not very wide, so luckily it has lots of mountains. But you see, so in Iowa you have a great advantage, two excellent advantages for Iowa: Minnesota and Wisconsin. You got them to the north. What I would do if I was in Iowa, I would move to northern Minnesota or northern Wisconsin, anywhere in Wisconsin, but probably northern Wisconsin. These states are fabulous for the pole shift. And then, so you got that place. You don't have to go too far, and then you can migrate back to Iowa, because guess what? As I've said, the sea, the new Mississippi Gulf, is coming to Iowa. So this is going to be, in the aftertime, a terrific place to be for fishing and trade. I mean, we're talking world travel here, right? This is world travel is coming to Iowa. So I'm suggesting uh, having a boat or two, and you could just sail down the Mississippi. Just sail down the Mississippi, or just row down with your 14-footer down the Mississippi, and then come back to Iowa in the aftertime, and you're going to have a great place to be. But for the pole shift, it's a zero. But again, recapping, you have Minnesota and Wisconsin and the sea coming to Iowa. So that's Iowa. Okay, let's look at Missouri, USA. Missouri is kind of divided up into two distinct areas. We've got the Missouri passing right through it, and all the tributaries rivers that feed into Missouri through the northern parts of Missouri. So the Missouri is going to way back up. Of course, it's right along the Mississippi, so it's going to completely flood. It's going to be just an inland lake, the northern portion of it. But there is good news for Missouri. The famous Ozarks. So the only really stable place to be in the aftertime for Missouri will be in the Ozarks. And you can see here, it's pretty old rock in the Ozarks. So the only place to be, if you're in Missouri, is to move to the Ozarks. Now, it's very simple. Now the only problem with there's two problems with Missouri for about a year or 8 months before the pole shift, which I would put that at about 2022. About 2022 will be the New Madrid fault line. Now here it is here, and apparently I didn't study this, but it looks like there's another fault line through this area here. That would be, it looks like the Mississippi actually. Yeah. So, yeah, that's the Mississippi, right? So you're going to have, if you live in Missouri, you're going to have to prepare for the pole shift a year earlier than everyone else. Because once that New Madrid fault line snaps, but let's look at why it's snapping. I've mentioned this before with a few of the other states, and that is that South America is rolling this way slowly, and it's the South American plate runs up in here. Well, you can see it here. Runs up this high, about through here. So it, yeah, you can see it through here. This is the South American plate here. So what's happening is that this, as this rolls westward, it's cutting through the Caribbean plate. It's going to sink the plate on the southern end and raise it slightly on the other, but it's just going to grind it. It's the same with Honduras and all these Mesoamerican states through here. This is grind land for the the same period, about a year before the pole shift or sooner. So what's happening is that as this massive plate rolls to the west, don't forget I'm using zeta talk here, it's putting a ton of pressure on the North American plate, which isn't going to go anywhere because the North American plate runs way up into the Arctic, way up in here, up there. Well, it doesn't include Iceland, but it's way up into the under the Arctic. So the plate is solid. So what happens is, as I'm saying, is as South America rolls, it puts tons of it puts teutonic pressure on the North American plate, and it's bowing Mexico, pushing Mexico and Alaska in a bow. This whole area in a bow like that. So it's like that. So what happens is, as the pressure increases slowly, it doesn't happen quickly, it's very slowly, the New Madrid is going to snap. And that's what we're talking about, this area here. This is going to snap, and it's going to drive the eastern seaboard into the Gulf of Mexico. Now, as far as people riding on the snap and the eastern seaboard, it's going to be a massive earthquake. Now let's take a look at what the 1811 December 16th New Madrid is documented. Here you can see the extent of damage that extends due to the. So you can use this as a kind of pattern as to how you think your state may do. So during the New Madrid snap. So if you take this green and this turquoise and green, that. So St. Louis, you'll have to forgive me, I don't have an intimate knowledge of St. Louis. There. So that's the tip of the yellow, some of the very worst of the here. So that's so some of the very worst of the shock is going to occur like this, in this circle here, southern Illinois, Indiana, and of course it gets less and less as it goes north west. So Missouri has a problem. It has a great solution and has a problem. So we're going to go back to Missouri here. So you have a wonderful place to go for the pole shift and the aftertime. Also wonderful because you have the sea, the new Mississippi Gulf coming to Missouri. Would be terrific location for the aftertime, for world travel, trade, you name it, food, all the food you could eat from the sea. I know Missourians may not be used to eating food from the sea like we are over in the Pacific, but the food will be plentiful. So that's the wonderful story about Missouri. But the rest of Missouri is just a disaster of a lake. So the Ozarks are the place to go. Now, of course, when you look at, I'll go back to this, when you look at this flood map, you're going to have millions of people. Now, a lot of these people will die if they're not aware of the pole shift. So the people migrating northward will be plentiful, but it won't be as heavy as that you'll have in these states up here, because as I've said before, the pole shift wave won't reach these areas. So you'll have a lot of migration through here, tons of it. So you could have people coming south, migrating south to Iowa. So the big issue in counterpoint to the Ozarks for Missouri is migration. So the Ozarks are going to be busy, but it looks to me like there are lots of places to go in the Ozarks if you want to get there early and get your camp set up in some place. There's wonderful hills in here. They aren't mountains. They aren't mountains, but we see them. I would see these as hills. So, but it's Ozarks are the place to go for Missouri, and you're going to have to go there by 2021, and set up your camp, your new life. And when the new Madrid strikes, that'll be it for assistance and supply, and possibly you can see that the strike zone is going to be pretty close to the strike zone there. So you may lose distributed water and electricity, certainly distributed food. So to recap on Missouri, the sea is coming. You can go to the Ozarks to survive, set up a wonderful life in the beautiful hills there. The rest of Missouri is underwater. Lots of migrants coming into the Ozarks. So be hidden, get propane cooking, and so you won't leave a smoke trail, and get yourself settled there by 2021. And that is the state of Missouri. Okay, let's take a look at Illinois, USA. Illinois is probably one of the most troubled states in the group. You've got the New Madrid assaulting Illinois, the ground in Illinois, a year before the pole shift or so. And then you've got lowland, and you've got the pole melt taking out most of Illinois. There's the northern end here, but it's going to be pretty much flooded. You also have the huge city of Chicago, so you're going to have massive migration through here. And the fact that Illinois is going to be underwater, the southern half as well, in the aftertime, there's no sense in staying in Illinois at all. So the good news is that when the New Madrid goes and you get all this damage, people will get the message to move out of Illinois and altogether. And well, you know, if you're living there now, you may have some homesteads, you know, in the northern area that will not be flooded over in the aftertime. You may want to put a marker down and go back afterwards, because you will have sea access there, which would be fabulous for the aftertime. But for the pole shift, it's an absolute zero. And the other good thing about Illinois is, well, besides the inland sea, the Mississippi Gulf coming in and taking over most of Illinois, will be that you have places to go in Illinois. You don't have to go very far. You can go into the Ozarks. Now we know it's going to be busy in the Ozarks. It's going to be a lot of people in there. But you've got the Ozarks to go to, and you could even go to Wisconsin and Minnesota, not too far away. And of course, I suspect Michigan will be very good for the aftertime, but I haven't done that yet. I think it's coming up. So you have a place to go. but don't be there for the pole shift. That's Illinois. Okay, I'd like to conclude this little series where we have discussed the Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois, rather Missouri than Illinois. And the next series, of course, I'm going to start working my way. I better finish these first, Kansas, Mississippi, Alabama. Anyways, we'll work our way towards New York, Maine. But I would like to just comment on a very common question I get. When I say that I believe the pole shift will happen in 2023, I get all this backwash from people that I know that contact me and say, oh, that's going to be in 2016, 2017. Well, in my opinion, 2016 is absolutely ridiculously impossible. 2017 is ridiculously impossible. 2018 is ridiculously impossible, but maybe 2019, 20. But let me explain. I believe in 2023, and I'm going to tell you why. So first of all, what you're looking at here is an adaptation I took from Zeta Talk, and what it does is it lays out the sequence of events that have to take place before the pole shift happens. Number one is India goes down, and that means that half of Australia, the western half, goes down, and then pushes India down under the waves mostly. Then we've got the sundial plate that goes down. The Philippines lose a great deal of elevation. Then we got some action here on the Carolina. Actually, it's on the Philippine plate. It folds complete. Then we have some heavy action in South America, and I believe this is referring to the Caribbean plate being pushed down, and of course the Mesoamerica being crushed and pushed into the down. And then we've got some mid-Atlantic ridge action, and then we've got the rolling of the African plate. All this is taking place in sequence, and it's not like click, 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 click. There's months in between. And then we've got the roll of Africa. And we've got some you got the floor of the Mediterranean Sea that's being pushed down by the African plate. Then we have the Japan quake set, first the south, then the north. Then there's I don't know, it'd be a week or two or three, a month between the two. So these are heavy, big earthquakes, series of them, and then there's a pause, and then you get the northern Japan quakes. So that's itemized here as 8. Now, that's after that. Actually, at the same time as the northern plate, the northern Japan gets the earthquakes. I get it in Victoria, but it's not mentioned here. So that's 8. Number 9 is New Madrid. Then number 10 is some heavy splitting in the Mid-Atlantic ridge, creating what's become known as the European tsunami. That'll send a 200-foot wave approximately through northern Europe. So that's the sequence of events. So if you look at the earth changes, we see earth changes, but they're nowhere near this type of action. Now I remember in 2007 when I became pole shift aware in the fall, we were thinking 2009 for the pole shift. 2009 came and went, and then we started thinking, well, maybe late 2010, 2011. And by this time, I'm well into my Planet X newsletter, so I'm researching constantly. And so 2011 came and went, and then we thought, well, it's got to be 2012, maybe. 2012, as we all know, came and went. Now 2013, 2014, 2015, they've all come and went. Now it's 2016. So it's not possible for a pole shift in 2016. Neither in 2017, neither in 2019. Because this event, all these events have to happen first. So I was doing a video one time a few months ago, and I ran across this page on, she has a regular name, but she's known as Baba Vanga. She's a blind psychic. She predicted, she was very, very famous, very, very famous, but she died quite in the 80s. She predicted the global warming and the 2004 tsunami in Asia. She predicted the September 11, 2001 terrorist attack on New York's Twin Towers. Now, I have to say it's a so-called terrorist attack. I don't believe it was a terrorist attack, but she predicted that event at the Twin Towers. She predicted the sinking of the Russian nuclear submarine, the Kursk, in 2000. She predicted the election of Barack Obama. Now, I'm scrolling down here, and I see this. 2023, the Earth's orbit will change. Nobody really knows what this means. Well, we know what that means. When Planet X gets close enough to Earth, it draws Earth out of orbit because it's the far heavier planet. So it draws Earth out of orbit and towards Planet X. And then the pole shift happens, and after that, Earth settles back and starts to re-rotate and to re-orbit. So here you go. We know what that means because the Earth being pulled out of orbit is in Zeta Talk. Now, if you want to dispute that, then look like a fool. When Zeta Talk has been making accurate predictions for 17 years, go right ahead. I, for one, this was it for me. 2023 for the pole shift. There's also a little other action with a friend I have on in Facebook who did his own reading. He's psychic, and he was pointing at 2022, I believe. So, anyways, that's the pole shift 2023, and that's why I believe that. This is Chris Thomas signing off for this particular piece, and thank you very much for watching.